assistant governor for the district, which means nothing because I have absolutely no authority.
But it meant a lot when Rick was assistant governor. I don't know how it's declined in such a short time.
He lied.
Oh.
My request and the reasons for it are important. History. Several months ago, the Rotary District of Southern New Jersey believed that they could advertise and attract people to become members of Rotary. Ulysses, the district governor, placed a very expensive ads in NPR, placed 50 spots with a lot of money, and he got modest returns. Quite frankly and bluntly, he didn't know what he was doing, and he didn't do what he did well. The advertisements were verbose and unpointed and never asked for the sale, so that was a waste. The selection of media was haphazard. He thought it would be a good idea. But the concept is intelligent. Now, Rotary does not advertise, never has. It's always been a word of mouth industry, and that's good because it works. But it isn't good enough. So what I've asked this organization to do is to help us determine how we can attract new members through the media in a cost-effective manner. Cost-effective is very difficult to define at this point. Frugal would be a nice word. I've laid out, and I believe you received copies of my note, and frankly, I just threw it together quite quickly.
No, actually, I don't think everybody has seen it. I've sent it to Bess, but I guess you didn't mention it when you.
I don't think that's
sent
forwarded, yeah.
So we'll need to send that out.
Copies if you
Yeah.
like. The steps that I perceive, and I leave it to your judgment to construct as you perceive, is to first ascertain what media is most often read or listened to by those members who have joined within the last few years. Because the old guys like me don't count. What I listen to and what someone has recently joined is different. So ascertain the market's interest in media. Second is to ascertain, probably through interviews, what are the key points to attract members. Looking at these people who joined the most recent years, what are the things that attracted them, had them come look at, and then join. Come look at is more important than join. We do know that there are certain things historically. In the Asian world, the first reason for people joining is to seek business contacts. They want to network out, and those have grown quite quickly. Second most important, and that's predominantly in this region, is the seeking of fellowship among peers, either in their community, intellectual area, etc. And then there are subordinate things, mostly along the lines of an interest in doing service in the community. Third thing is to survey the media and see which media be the best value. We know what they've listened to, what they've read, which of the media makes the most sense to target. Now we need a plan for testing, and asserting the accuracy of our assumptions. Because we're going to make assumptions along the line. We're going to say, okay, we found that among the people who have joined most recently, they listen to NPR. Right? And they are seeking fellowship. If we think those are the two key points, then we know where to advertise and what to say, what to sell, to use your word.
Yeah,
If those are the conditions. But your job is to ascertain those points. What's the best market? place, right, what media, and what do we sell them on? Then we need a marketing plan to focus on that advertising. Okay, we think it would be most advantageous to use, and I'm just gonna say NPR, get daytime spots, early morning, drive to work spots, as opposed to drive home, as opposed to midday, or on specific programs, or it's a music station, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what we're gonna say and how we're gonna measure it. You should know that my vision at this moment is to be able to say to the governors of certain districts, we'd like to advertise, again, assuming NPR for the moment. There's a radio station in Philadelphia that broadcasts approximately 60 miles, maybe a little more. And so we would like to go to the districts that are in that 60-mile radius. Because if one district pays for everything, it makes no sense. If everybody's in the region, then each person pays less, but gains equally. Okay? So we'll have to look at those things. My job will become one of taking the documentation that you will provide and going to those districts, there's approximately 6 of them, and selling those districts on taking the responsibility of providing the funds to place your advertisement in the media you have selected. Okay? And then find out if it worked. If it works, and this will take about a year, 6 months, or a year, it's not gonna happen in 90 days. And then when we've been able to assess the damage, and we know that by spending X number of dollars in this region, et cetera, and this is what we've acquired from that, then we will be able to know if it's a reasonable cost. Okay? And that's a judgment thing. It's not a weights and measurement thing. If that works out nicely, then we will relate this to Rotary International in some form to be determined. And we can go to other regions of this country and other countries and present them with your report, the creation of the product, the sale of the product. And they can make their own decisions as to whether or not they want to do the same. Each person who contributes will be considered an author, and each person's name will appear within the documentation. And if you wish, a website in case somebody would like to get in touch with you, because they will see the genius of your work. That's it.
Is it expected that that the medium would be traditional commercial media or non-traditional, meaning new?
Meaning?
New. For example, ads on a social media Facebook page or something like that.
One could look at that. That's their determination to make.
I mean, that we're open to all
sure.
sorts of media, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Single-pronged approach at this time. I'm not confident that they could sell a multi-pronged approach.
So you want
What do you mean by that?
Well, I would not want to put money into print media and broadcast media. I'm not confident that I could sell people on doing that. It's too difficult to define results. If you want to do that sort of thing, you go to 2 different test grounds. You don't do it all in the same place. Unless you have the ability to be able to digest the information that comes in and say, how did you find out? How did you find out? And we don't have the time or money or people to do that.
Okay, so we're writing off integrated marketing communications approach.
I can't see how we could do that. Unless you want to do that, and you say that that's the way to go. Again, funding is going to become a constrictive consideration.
Okay. Have you thought about specific target market that you have?
Only geographically.
Okay. Because that might be an issue from a standpoint of targeting. Because if we wanna craft a message, and we only craft it for a location, that it's an issue. It's an issue because in a particular location of Philadelphia, you have me, the Eastern European Westernized, but then you have him, the Far Eastern citizen, that's not as Westernized as, for example, I am, but then you have someone in the middle that is from yet another region, and then someone from yet another region, and it gets even crazier in New York City.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is, you targeting the room right now does not necessarily mean that you're targeting both of us. And that will create an issue because you were trying to accomplish us getting on board. You may get one, but not both.
This is why we're gonna start off by identifying those people who have joined Rotary the last few years.
Okay?
The demographics of those will fall into a handful of categories. We're not that complex. The Rotary International is predominantly an association of business and professional individuals. That I take for granted. We're not going to see stay-at-home moms.
Teachers, artists, government officials.
We know they're not there.
Right.
Okay?
You will always get a few in a batch.
Okay.
So,
Generally
and
speaking-
again, this is a Rotary construct, not a Rotaract
No,
construct.
I understand. It's just that the issue that I have is, I think that this is one of the confusions, if you will, that seasoned Rotary members have, is that that's what it was and that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
However, times change. So if Rotary meant something back in the 50s, that doesn't necessarily mean that it meant the same in the 70s. Not at all what it means today. That's my assumption. And it's true, many, if not more than many, of members are some kind of business owners, but this is a particular strata that we're kind of ignoring, and that's business executives. Because number one, they have the resources, number two, they maybe have the time, number three, they have the values to be in that kind of organization.
Mm-hmm.
And if we ignore those folks, then I think that we will be shooting ourselves in the foot.
So your point is, get them on the way up, don't get them just because they happen to be.
My point is, that's what I'm trying to get across. Yeah.
It's a very prudent approach to eliminate the negatives. Is that what, I believe that's what I'm hearing. And using phrases like, and it's a traditional old American phrase, this ain't your father's Buick. This isn't your grandfather's Rotary. That sort of thing would become a positive. I would certainly respect that kind of thinking. You get to meet many Rotarians?
They don't get to meet too many. They've been to a few gatherings.
Many of them tell me why they join Rotary Club is because of their father. Many. Some Rotary family.
Okay, it's not common to find a Rotarian whose parent was a Rotarian. It's not common at all.
I have two questions.
Please, ma'am.
First question, do we have data available about Rotarians, like, in recent decades, available to us?
I can see if there is. I've never run across any demographics. I've sought them, but I've never been able to get them out of the international. I hear about them.
I don't think
Yes.
international, maybe like in those districts, like in the 6 districts.
We won't find any regionally, because
Oh.
those studies are never done in this region. They've never been done in this
Okay.
region.
But
Then-
can you get a list of recent,
Yes.
Yeah.
recent people?
That leads to my
Yes.
second
Well,
question.
what I said, what we're going to do is target Rotarians, and I'll just use a number here, who have joined within the last 3 years, it's
Mhm.
4 years. And
Yeah.
that demographic I can pull for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I identified it. Otherwise, you can't go, if you've been here 3 years. If I'm unable to, then if you were going to do a electronic survey, we should simply state it on the top. If you have been a Rotarian since 19 such, 20 such and such, please complete this, otherwise go away. So there are two ways to handle that, but I believe we can pull that out. We have a new secretary in the district, as you may know.
I knew we were going to get one, but I don't know. who yet.
Don Heeman, his daughter.
Oh, okay. Apple didn't fall far from the tree, is that it? Okay.
The district had a paid secretary, administrative assistant, but she had changes in her life and she's left, and so we've been searching for a new person. And the best person who turned up happens to be the daughter of one of the Rotarians.
So actually, I only have one idea, is that we should know which kind of group we ignore, we still do not enough. That can help us to get people, new people.
That's
It's
what
more-
I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say is, because if we don't have a clear target of, this is the person, that's their demographic, that's the psychographic, that's what we are looking at, we may not be able to, scratch that, we will not be able to craft a message that will be effective. Because we're shooting at multiple different targets, and one is triangle, one is a square, one is a circle.
And that's what we have in Rotary.
We should,
We look for the common footprint, and the common footprint is that there are people in business,
Okay.
at all levels,
Okay.
and people who are professionals. People who are local bank managers, people who are plumbers, people who have their own businesses. These are business professionals. And that's our constituency.
So will we be able to derive that targeting from the data that you mentioned, from last 3 years of people joining? And if we see a pattern, is that the pattern that we're using?
No, because that's not recorded by Rotary. Their profession is not recorded.
Okay, so how do we target?
Do we have interviews with some
By all
Rotarians that
means.
have joined in recent years? Because the way I think it, I care about what people think. Like,
Sure.
why? I don't care about like your age, your career, or anything. I just want to know why. 'Cause
Thank you. That is the core question. Why did
Yeah.
you join this organization?
Yeah.
The other question is, how did you get in touch with this? But that's lesser, because
Yeah.
most of them we know are introduced, none of them because of an advertisement, because there were no advertisements.
Yeah.
So then,
we should know these people, why they join, and then we know what we can do. For doing this, the best way actually is the person to person.
So let's start to look at what you would like to have accomplished from my end of it, what I can bring to your table, and then let's take a look at what you expect that you would like to do.
I have a corollary question. Does the information you have indicate who sponsored this individual?
That's impossible. That's never recorded. It's only used at the time of installation.
so then.
See, that's where most referrals now take place. They take place between someone who knows someone who is a candidate and, my son, hang on just a couple of minutes, I'm in a meeting. Who would be a candidate, and knowing that person's interests and something about their business or professional life. And then that person becomes key to the sponsorship and bringing this person into the organization. So there's something there that needs to be explored, it seems to me.
Can I ask?
So could you speak with it, please?
I mean, this event is recruit only for Rotary member, right? Not Rotaract member.
Correct.
And I have a question about our internal club description, because when I start join in our club, actually I always want to bring my friend friends, my classmates into our club. But sometimes I have a confused question in my heart. How can we describe our club definition very clear? I know our club is attractive act, but what do we do? I cannot only use charity to describe our club.
Sure.
So if we want to recruit more members into our club, I think it's better to find the very clearly definition about our club. Like for different level age, like from 30 years old to 40 years old, maybe we need make sure what kind of organization they want to join us. And for up to 40 and 50 years old, what kind of they need and they want to join with us.
Yes.
That's very important, because sometimes even we ask them why you join this club. Before we ask them this question, they don't know what kind of us, our club.
Sure.
So I will always solve this problem. That's very important.
The way I feel about it, go ahead.
She's talking about we need a clear image.
Yeah, but that's a separate issue. The way I feel about it is, obviously we have to start with research. I mean, it's kind of a given. But since we don't really have other methodology, we have to kind of get the information from as many people as we can of what it is that got them in the door in the first place. And looking at that, kind of making assumptions, not making assumptions, but getting the information from it, kind of saying, okay, all these people, majority of them joined because the organization means this to them. So then take this and then you apply it. Because maybe in the past was because it's a family thing. If the dad does it, then the son does it. But maybe, nowadays it's a different thing, especially with organizations moving into the dimension of being, environmentally friendly and socially responsible and things like that. Maybe people do it because of that. Maybe they don't do it because of tradition anymore. But we don't know that, and that's something that we need to find out. So questionnaire should be the initial start. There's no way around. There's really no way around, because at the end of the day we know nothing. I mean, we may have some data, but that will only be factual data. Joined on this day, and member since whatever. Family has been in the business for whatever. But that doesn't really tell me why. So it has to start like that. It has to.
So how do we acquire this?
I'm feeling something of a questionnaire design.
Uh-huh.
I'm feeling questionnaire design would be one approach, and I'm definitely feeling that we have to get faculty on board, because this is a project that's a little bit beyond us. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I know a little about questionnaire design. Dane knows a lot about questionnaire design, but it's not like we are masters of questionnaire design, right? This is how it should start. We should get primary data. Maybe we'll get some secondary data if you have any records of anything to kind of pair it with, but primary data is what we're at.
And you can develop that. It was suggested to me before I came to this meeting that you'd probably like to do was a Survey Monkey, where you can send out a questionnaire to X number of people, and they'll all come back, and then there are systems to break it down to categories. We do know from experience, particularly a gentleman like a TV producer over here, we do know the primary reasons that people join Rotary and why they stay, because we do this all the time. It's like, what are you going to cook for dinner? It's part of our nature. And we can break that down into a small number of questions. And once we get those questions, then the Survey Monkey can tell us which are the dominant, which are the recessive. You can build you can build your advertisement from that position. And again, the second thing is to find out, using that Survey Monkey, what media do you use most often, secondarily? When do you use them? Most one thing I would be afraid of, and it happens too often in marketing, is that we overthink. We try to get down to that last little teeny grain of sand, and we miss the beach.
Yeah.
And this is hit the beach. Again, once you've done some survey work and done an analysis and come up with that, at that point, we need to go to script. It's either a script for a radio, which is possible, which is a strong possibility. It's script or it's text for a newspaper article or a magazine. I don't know where. That's something you will determine. But I will work with you on developing these things. I'm happy to say I have a history of these things, so I can contribute. I can bring faculty in, all the better.
Okay, so what kind of secondary data can you provide us?
What kind
of secondary data, what kind of information can you provide us on people that have registered in the last 3 years?
There'd be nothing in record form.
Okay.
Finding out who has joined within the last 3 years, I can probably get, not guaranteed. We'll find out from DACDB if we can get that. Are you familiar with DACDB? I think there's an information source for records within the organization that focuses through a corporation called DACDB, and they do ask the date of first date of starting with Rotary. So that's how we're able to, I believe, we'll be able to isolate just those people. If not, then as I said earlier, we'll just blanket everybody in the district. And we'll say in the headline, this survey applies to those people who have joined since such and such date. Your support is much appreciated.
Okay.
It's kind of a high school way of doing it, but when you,
Can we get people to interview too?
yes, you can interview anyone. We start with his club. He's the president of the Bryn Mawr Club,
Mm-hmm.
and those are good people.
Yeah.
So you can talk to them. You can come to my club and as my guest
Mhm.
and interview those people. They're not good people, but it's my club, so I have to. I
Maybe
don't-
we need those not good people even more than those good people.
I wouldn't join a club that would have me as a member, so.
We heard from newspaper, media, everyone know our country joined this union. But why Rotary? Not everyone know that, because we don't have some specific issue or specific events. We should know that. So I just think, could we organize some very specific things to organize people to join into that event? Maybe like we have a 5 core program, I know, like business develop, water shortage. It's our core programs. So, like for example, save the water, how to bring the fresh water to developing region. We can create this kind of advising or events into public medium. Then just to get people know what's funny things.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Now, again, studies done by Rotary International have shown that the thing that keeps members involved in their clubs is doing service.
Yeah.
And every study, and I just completed one for the Army, says that your generation wants to do something now.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about collecting money and 6 years from now we'll do it. No, do it now, then collect the money. For Rotaract, for your organization, to attract attention and get publicity, the notion of doing something that would get publicity is wonderful. I don't know what that is. I would recommend, and I'm not really familiar with Rotaract. I've never had any involvement. But my professional experience is, from my own career, would be to say, find others go to other Rotaract clubs and say, what have you done in the last couple of years that has gotten publicity? And you learn. When I was your age, that's a long time ago, I was a salesman, and I learned very early, ask. People love to be helpful. People love to give advice and information. And people are basically very good. And it works. So I would say, get the names of other Rotary clubs, Rotaract clubs, contact the people there, and ask. Tell them what you want, tell them just what you've told me. We need to get publicity. I suspect you will do very well. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, but she also raised the point about like a marketing campaign. I don't think that we can get people to sign up just from an ad. So I think that we need to think beyond just the ad. We need to think about a funnel to get to the end result of getting more people to register. So maybe it's not an ad, maybe we have to think about like a series of events that have to do with that ad.
For Rotary?
For Rotary.
And all the clubs, and we're in a district with 53 clubs.
Mhm.
And across the river in South Jersey, they have another 50 clubs. And in North Central, there's another roughly 50. So within a 50, 60 mile radius from Delaware to Central Jersey out to Stroudsburg, there's probably, 10,000 people for a number?
Mm.
Okay. And there's probably 300, 400, between 300 and 400 clubs.
Mhm.
And all of them do things all the time.
Mhm.
And all of them are mandated to put out news releases every time they do something in local papers.
Oh.
And that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
Now, the word supposed to and doing are separated.
Mhm.
They don't always do it. But you're absolutely right. That's one of the things that Rotary should be doing. We don't teach people how to do it because of the structure of Rotary. You're familiar with this? Rotary is structured from the unit up, not from the top down.
What does that mean?
Reverse structure. It's not like
It's a
regular.
plants.
It's not like regular
It's plants.
corporation. Think of a corporation.
That's what you think
flipped
about,
upside
right?
down.
Not like this, it's plants.
If folks want to do. Hey, no goals, no failures. It's easy, right? I need some goals here.
I think we have same idea. We lack of the information.
So the goal is for us to understand what makes people join in. That's
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
What makes people join in. The rest is just something that we have to kind of discover, if you will. So we have to find a way to make our own approach. And if we should really consider Paul a client, then we should treat him that way. Meaning that we should partner up with him and solve his problem. But that's pretty much what this is gonna be.
You gonna take me to lunch?
Well, see, the way it works is, and you're a salesman, you already walked in the door and you sat down and you asked us to make this happen so we don't have to sell you anything. I'm joking with you. We can buy you lunch if you want. But if I was to pursue you, then yeah, it's a joke. Anyway, so this is the best dynamic for us to understand the process. We're after all business people, or try to be business people, and we should treat this as business. So the way I feel about this is if we can at least try to meet next time we're supposed to meet and sit down and craft our approach, that should be a good starting point for us to set ourselves up for success. Because if we find ourselves in the situation of throwing suggestions around the room with no clear direction, we will virtually accomplish nothing, and that's not something that we want to do. So what I'm trying to say is, let's try to get as many people as we can in the room for next meeting, and let's focus exclusively on this for next meeting,
When is your next meeting?
in 2 weeks.
Hey, crazy, it's gonna be forever, 2 weeks.
The other-
You got Christmas, you got New Year's.
The other thing is, well, I can say this with confidence that in 2016 we won't be able to achieve nothing with regard to this project. Not because I don't want to, not because it's not exciting, just because it's very hard, as you can see, to get people in the room. We were supposed to be many more than we are right now. So this is an issue. I cannot solve a problem if I don't have someone to kind of help me out with this. If I give you a pin and say, put the pin in the wall, but give you no hammer, go ahead,
Let me ask you a question. How do you communicate with your fellow members?
email.
Okay, so you given a synopsis of this meeting?
Yes, after each meeting they get it.
You've already determined what the first step is, am I correct? You've determined that. You want to find out why they joined.
Yes.
Why don't we right now, since you have the most intelligent people in the organization here tonight, why don't we determine how you're going to determine why people join? You suggested interviews.
How many interviews and who's gonna do them? Each person do 5 interviews?
Why don't we do a focus group?
I want to do individual interview, personally, that's what I prefer. I want to do individual interviews.
Sure.
You can do that too. And-
Why don't we do a
Yeah,
focus
we
group?
can do focus
And
groups.
you can do a
Yeah,
focus
you can
group.
do focus groups.
This is a focus
Yeah.
group room.
This is a focus group
Yeah.
Who are you
room?
going to get to come in here?
Some of the
Members.
last 3-year members, like me.
Oh, God, no. You know, a bunch of old guys walking in a nice campus like this. Let me suggest something, you tell me if it makes sense. I can line up some clubs that will give you some time at the microphone or at the lectern, and you can ask the question and interview people en masse. Does that help?
You may not have that kind of time during the day.
That's not, that from a logistical standpoint, that's kind of tough to do. The other reason I feel very confident with doing a focus group room is that in focus group room, a lot of things that normally don't surface.
Oh, you're right.
So if we have, I don't know, 8 people here and someone to moderate and they ask him something, and if, you know, person X says, well, I joined because of X, and then Y says, yes, but what about this? And then he responds, then you have information, okay? I'm not able to get that interaction if I'm in a room with 350 people say, why do you join? Raise your hands. See you later. Raise your hand.
I've done focus groups. I
Yeah,
understand how it
so,
is. When could we get people in here? You know,
Well, that's.
the other thing I wanted to mention and run it by you guys is this should become a weekly meeting, not bi-weekly meeting.
The way it's working, yeah.
This should be a weekly meeting. We have to find a way to get people in the door because we don't have the secretary now right now. Everything that's being said, it's not recorded now. I have my notes of what he said. Thank God for that.
You're welcome.
Otherwise, thank you so much.
And Rich.
Yeah. Otherwise, we got nothing. Secretary didn't even touch base, didn't say I can't make it. I got nothing from her, and I'm sending an emails. You got the emails, right? The reminder email. So that's an issue. I know this is a voluntary thing, and we got on board, but we got on board. So now let's make something happen. This being voluntary does not mean that you are allowed to not care and get away with it.
Yeah.
That's an issue with me because of my origin, because of the way I'm raised and whatever. Even if I say, okay, I'll do this for no money, just for the fun of it, I'm still gonna be serious about it, and that's the issue that I have. But that aside, approach to the problem is the first thing we should do. Now, when she mentioned that she wants to do structured interviews, that's good. We should definitely use that. Combining that with a questionnaire on a broad scale and maybe a focus group room to hit that mid-level, I think that will give us plenty of information to get us started.
I would, how many of you have used SurveyMonkey?
I've used it maybe twice, maybe 3 times.
Okay.
The issue is not with the technology itself, the issue is with the actual questionnaire, the design of the questionnaire, that's
Exactly.
crucial.
Designing the questions. are
And
important.
that's why I wanted to speak with faculty, because we have professionals in-house, they can do that. Because like, even if you have brilliant questions, the mere sequence of those, if not get right, will not accomplish the goal. That's how specific this has to be. So yeah. But my thought was, if we sit down and we agree on approaches, and then we say, okay, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of this, let's regroup next week and see where we are, that's kind of, okay, now we're organized.
Well, do you want to try to meet next week?
Yes.
Okay.
Wednesday.
Because
Wednesday.
I want to get us at least started.
$1 million is next Wednesday.
All right, we can't be here because we're meeting, and I don't know, you're also going to
Yeah, yeah.
$1 billion.
So I will go with you.
We can meet a different night. Is that possible? Can anybody meet a different night?
We'll try. we'll try. Let's see if it's gonna happen.
All right.